Hey everyone, this is Red Power Gaming and welcome back to the next video. Today we're gonna check out all the devices that I own. And this is my iPhone 7 Plus with iOS 14.8.1. This was my old phone, but I don't use it anymore. You know what phone I use now? This is my main phone. Despite the no service, this is my iPhone 7 with iOS 10.0.1. And this is my main phone. This used to be my old phone right here, but I switched to this because I want to. I love it. It's pretty perfect, isn't it? And I'm not upgrading this thing into the new iPhone 17 because I like this phone. Now anyways, here are all my iPod touches that I own. This one is about 2 years old. I got this back in September 2023. This is my black iPod Touch 4th generation with iOS 4.3.2. I had this for 2 years. It's perfect. This is my other black iPod Touch 4 with iOS 6.1 this black iPod Touch 4 has iOS 6.1.3 installed, which is rare since iOS 6.1.6 is the last version for the iPod Touch 4. So I'm only 2 versions away from 6.1.6 on here. And this is my other iPod Touch 4th generation with iOS 6.1.6, unfortunately. My other black iPod Touch 4 with iOS 5.1.1, I put it away because it wasn't really working that well. I wish I had it with me. Unfortunately, it's not with me. But I plan on getting it repaired even more in the future. Now let me show you my iPhone 4S that I have. This is my black iPhone 4S that I got 1 year ago. It used to run iOS 7.1 and now it runs iOS 6.1.3. But don't worry, I have the iOS 7 blob saved. Unfortunately, iOS 7 and up is unusable on this thing because remember the activation problem on this thing? And this is my other iPhone 4S. This was my mom's old phone. This thing has iOS 6.1.3 installed, all 2. This was my mom's old phone. Until she switched to the 6 Plus on iOS 10.0.2, which I have in my other room, but that has touch problems, screen problems. Touch doesn't respond well. Then this was my mom's phone after, and then she owned an iPhone 12 Pro Max in blue color, and now she owns an iPhone 16 in Pro Max. Now I really do want to get a blue iPhone 12 Pro Max with iOS 14 or iOS 15 to relive Now let's move on. So, let's show you this iPad over here. This was my very first iPad that I ever owned. I had this for years. I had this since I was 3. This iPad has iOS 3.2.1 installed. And this was my very first iPad that I owned. back in the day. It's in really bad condition. It's not in very good condition. Anyways, let me show you my other iPad first generation. This one has iOS 5 installed, a rare version of iOS 5 actually. iOS 5.1. The latest for the iPad first generation is 5.1.1. But I have iOS 5.1 on here. Let's move on to the iPad 2 that I have. This is my newest device that I have. This is my iPad 2 with iOS 4, iOS 4.3.2 on this iPad right here. And this is really good. It looks just like this iPad that I have right here. I used to use this thing a lot back in the day. It looks just like it. Except this is not. Except this has iOS 8.4.1 installed. I cannot go to iOS 6 on here, which is pretty shame. I'm stuck on iOS 8 on here, unfortunately. Fun fact, this was my second iPad. This was my second iPad that I owned back in the day. But unfortunately, this thing had water damage. It was replaced with this iPad right here. Back in, I think it was November 2012 when this was purchased. According to the results I found on here. You remember when I used to use this a lot back in 2023. But I don't really use that thing anymore. The only thing I'm not liking is the jailbreak. The jailbreak is semi-tethered on this thing, which is not really good. But it's still pretty good to have. I try not to let this thing run out of batteries. Very nostalgic device to have. Very nostalgic device to have. I'll show you my black iPad 2 I have for 2 years as well. This one has iOS 6 installed, iOS 6.3 installed. Fun fact, this iPad was made in October 2014, which is really late for an iPad 2 to be made, you know? Crazy, right? Now, let's move on to the little bit newer iPads now. This one's my iPad Air 2 with iOS 14 installed. iOS 14.7.1 is what we have on here. Now let me show you something. Do you see these red spots on here? I really despise it. These red spots. I'm like, how did it get there? And anyone have any ideas how to get rid of these red spots? I've been thinking about replacing the LCD, which is probably my only option here. I have another iPad Air 2. This one's my favorite one. As you can see, this one has iOS 9.3.2 installed. I had this for a year at most. I'm trying to keep, it's very good. I love it. Yeah. And that's it for here. Now let's move on to the iPad mini. This iPad right here was the first iPad I experienced iOS 7 on. This thing has iOS 7.0.2 installed. This is pretty rare for an iPad mini, but iOS 6 is probably more rare than this. I do want to get an iPad mini 1 with iOS 6. I have been thinking about it. But yeah, I'll show you the iPad mini. First, this black iPad mini 1. This used to have iOS 7.0.4 installed, but my brother begged to get iOS 8 on here. And I have iOS 8.4.1 on it. Wow, 444 MB space left. I have to free up space on it. Oh my god. How many times do I have to tell my brother to not install these extra apps? He's gonna boot loop this iPad. But oh well. We delete them so we don't have a problem. Don't mind? That's better. You don't need the extra. Don't worry, I have the iOS 7 blob saved on this iPad, so don't worry. Let's move to the iPad mini 2 that I have. This one has iOS 10 installed. Boring, right? Okay, I got Angry Birds needs to be updated. This app will not work with iOS 11. Yep, that's why I switched to that's why I don't like iOS 11 and up. Let's show you the iOS version I'm running. I'm running iOS 10.3.3. I used to have an iPad Air 1 of iOS 10.3.3, but that's gone now. Had this thing for 2 years. One of my family members gave it to me. Let's move on to the newest iPads I have. This is the newest iPads I have, the iPad 7th generation. This one has iOS 13.5.1 still installed. The only problem with this thing is that the charging port is broken. You have to put it at a certain angle to charge it. Hey, this iPad's pretty perfect. I used to use that iPad back in the day. Now, last but not least, this is the newest iPad I own. My iPad 7th generation with iOS 15.6.1 still installed. This is the newest iOS that I have, and the newest iPad I own. And that's it. And that's it. And none of these devices are compatible with the iOS 19, the so-called iOS 26. None of these iPads. That's it. That's all I have. Except for my iPhone 6s on iOS 10.0.2 that's put away. My iPad Air 1 of iOS 9.3.4 that was boot looping. Yeah, that's it. I don't have any device that's compatible with iOS 26. And I don't care. But the last device I forgot to mention was this iPhone 6 over here. This thing has iOS 10.2.1 installed. This is not my favorite device though, because Touch ID does not even work. I know, and it's 16 gigabytes only. So I abandoned this phone a while ago. I do have one more device. Let me pull it up for you. This black iPhone 6s right here. Running iOS 15.8.2. My least favorite device. I know iOS 15.8.5 is available, but I want to keep this phone on iOS 15.8.2 because I don't like updating. This phone was manufactured on December 15, 2019. This was supposed to be my main phone, but we had trouble activating it. You want to know what app we tried to use to activate it? We were trying to use this app called, this app store even load. Tried to use the app called eSIM, T-Mobile Prepared eSIM. That's what we tried to use to activate this phone. We tried activating this too, which is not how you, I don't blame you. So we tried to use, this phone would not activate no matter what we did. Even though it was unlocked. This is the most boring phone. So yeah, that's it. I don't have anything newer. This is the newest device I have. Nothing with iOS 16, iOS 17, iOS 18, or iOS 19, the so-called iOS 26. That's all I have. This is all the electronics I own. Except for some I missed. So yep, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.